Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Jude Charles. Jude is a brand strategist and filmmaker, helping entrepreneurs build their brand and bring their story to life through video. Jude's love for storytelling started as early as elementary school. He would spend all of his free time as an 8-year-old writing 100-page books. Then, later, around the age of 16, he learned how to transfer his writing skills to film and video. But he wasn't always aware of the gift God had given him. It wasn't until his high school teacher, Mrs. Donnelly, saw a special talent in him and encouraged him to launch a video production company at the age of 17. Mrs. Donnelly even went as far as purchasing his first set of business cards. 13 years later, Jude has traveled the world, working with world-class business brands such as Google, Coldwell Banker, and Steve Harvey, just to name a few. His raw storytelling style inspires, motivates, and persuades audiences to fall in love with the entrepreneurs he captures through his lens. Please join me in welcoming Jude Charles. And forgive me, Jude, I have to say, hey, Jude.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I know, I'm so corny. I just had to say it.
No, it's okay. I hear that phrase at least once a day, and someone sings it to me at least once a day. So
well, that you would never get from me. I love the story of where you began as a child and your relationship with Mrs. Donnelly and how this relationship with her and how she encouraged you, but then how you've taken it forward in your life and some of the twists and turns and transitions you've made along the way. So tell us about what was that like as a child to be challenged by a teacher in that way, and how did that translate into you really turning that into something you've really come to love?
You know, as a child, growing up, I always took the road less traveled. And honestly, it wasn't until I grew up in my 20s that I really realized how magical that was. I thought every 8-year-old kid was at home writing and not playing video games and not playing outside. But I just enjoyed to write. And I don't know where the passion came from to write, other than I loved dreaming. I love imagining what was possible. And so the books that I wrote when I was a kid was about what I thought my future life would look like. So I wrote books like, believe it or not, I wanted to be a police officer. So I wrote a book about the police life of Jude Charles. And I also wrote about a book that's called From Boyhood to Manhood. And it was about this story of a group of friends that I had in elementary school. And what has happened with that is that I still have these same group of friends from elementary school, and that we're very close. You know, I just always was interested by what was possible. And so when my TV production teacher, Mrs. Donnelly, you know, she saw a gift in me and she said, hey, Jude, you started a business. I didn't hesitate. I hesitated in the fact that I didn't know what it meant to start a business, to start a video production business. But I didn't hesitate at the thought of, okay, I could do this. And so the very next day when she told me this, and then the very next day she decided to buy the first set of business cards, I was like, I guess I'm doing this then. And I went full head of steam to doing it. And so the first 5 years of business, though, was a struggle because, again, like I mentioned, I did not know what it meant to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know how to run a business, how to do marketing and how to do sales. I just knew the talent.
Right. Well, there's a big difference. I mean, I almost want to take a step back for a moment, because thinking about, I think about how many 8-year-olds are writing 100-page books. Yeah. How many 8-year-olds, I understand the life of an 8-year-old who might be imagining themselves as a policeman.
Mhm.
I don't know how many 8-year-olds would be writing about it and literally imagining themselves becoming an adult. I think when children talk about themselves as becoming something, I think it's just talk. I don't know that they really are thinking they will actually become an adult.
Mhm.
And I have this image of you almost like you were spending a lot of time as this child really stepping into yourself growing up in
Yes.
a way. And I think that's unusual. So that's a certain skill set or a certain way of holding a vision. And then, becoming a business person, an entrepreneur, that's a whole separate way of envisioning things and projecting things out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, being an entrepreneur, I assumed that if I was really good, then people would pay me, right? But the idea of setting goals, the idea
Yeah.
of where did I want to be in 5, 10 years, even as I started the business, that was a different kind of vision that I needed to build that I didn't
Yeah.
understand in the very early days of starting the business.
So when did you actually start the business? It was really at 17, right?
At 17, May 5th, 2006, I'll never forget the day. There's two reasons why I'll never forget. One is because it's actually Cinco de Mayo, so that makes it easy to remember. But,
Yeah.
for the very first time in my life, I had someone that was willing to not only believe in me, but invest in me.
Mm.
And so I didn't have any, I wasn't thinking about starting a business. Of course, I was thinking about going to college. I was thinking about what I would do as a career, but I did not think that, okay, I could do this before I even get to college. And so, yeah, it was May 5th, 2006. And I was in the TV production classroom, looking at my first set of business cards that I actually still have to this day. But
So were you a senior in high school?
I was a junior. It was the end of my junior year when
Oh,
this happened. And so, yeah, because I graduated 2006 from high school, and I was a junior. And yeah, I started by doing church events. So I literally, went to my church and said, "Hey, I'm doing this. Would you guys mind, paying?" At that time, it was $100, $200. Would you pay for me to record special events? And from there, I started doing birthday parties. I started doing small weddings, and really trying to find, okay, what is it that I really want to do here? How do I want to do it? I always know I wanted to tell stories because as an 8-year-old writing stories, that's what I loved.
so that was the link
Yeah.
there was that thread between the writing, the film, and then connecting maybe some income to it. There was the storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. I've always been in love with storytelling, whether reading books, I read a lot of books as a kid, and writing books, but also just once I realized that I could hold a video camera and now transfer the stories that I was writing or the scripts that I was writing to video and actually bring that to life, that's what was magical for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even as a 17-year-old to charge $100, $200 for an event, that must have felt like big money at the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, during that time, I was working at a grocery store. So to be able to charge 100, 200 and make that in one day, I was only making, I think at the time, $6 an hour at the
Yeah.
grocery store. So
Yeah.
to be able to charge $200 for a one-day event, it opened my eyes again to what was possible, that I could be able to make money and do this for a living,
Yeah.
right? I remember working at the grocery store, and I told myself what I didn't want to do is wake up every morning and dread going to work. I didn't want to be miserable going to work
Yeah.
because I watched other people that worked at the grocery store who were older than me who were miserable, who would come in and complain every single day about
Yeah.
what it was like to work at the grocery store.
Right.
And so I knew for me, myself, like I did not want to do that. And so when I realized, hey, I have this gift, I have this talent, and I could make money from it, and someone is willing to exchange money with me to say, I am going to give you this $200 and believe in the fact that you can give me a great video. Yeah, that to me was like, okay, I found something here that I could do, and I could do it for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's get a little specific here. What was it that Mrs. Donnelly saw in you that made her want to get you a set of business cards? That's not something that most high school teachers do for their students.
No.
So I also want to mention that you're one of 10 children.
Yes.
And that you're the only one of 10 children who decided not to go to college.
Yes.
Right? Because
yes.
you decided you could really build something based on both this talent and this love that you have of storytelling. And so I'm just curious because, think about, you grew up in an age where, anybody could put a camera in their hand and make a video. So what, not to sound cynical, but what makes you so special?
I think it's the ability to see things in a very different way than most people see them. I think because of the idea that I was, instead of playing video games, writing at 8 years old, I looked at a problem. I looked at something that was put before me, and I would look at it through a different lens. And so I think what Ms. Donnelly saw in me was the drive and the work ethic that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to be obsessed about doing that thing. Right. So I had been in before Ms. Donnelly told me that, hey, you can go and start a business. I had been in her class for, I think this was a year and a half at this point. And I was committed to it. Right. Whenever she needed help, I would be there. We also did morning announcements. So video morning announcements. And we do that every morning. And so when, she was teaching us certain things, I'd be right there. Okay, what is she teaching here? What notes can I take on this? I was very intrigued. At the time, I didn't know that I loved video production as much as I did, but because I was just so fascinated by it, I became obsessive about it. And I think that is what she saw. She saw she saw a kid who was hungry to do more. And she knew, okay, he can go start a business. I didn't know, so she guided me towards that.
So she saw you weren't fooling around. You were really paying attention to the details, the technical side, the really understanding the entire craft.
Yes.
Of what you were doing.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to understand it because, again, it was something that I realized I was falling in love with. The idea that, I could take these stories and allow people to bring them into this moment, transform them, and take them into this moment of the story that I'm telling, right? It's just like going to the movies and sitting on the edge of your seat and waiting for that moment to breathe when the action finally stops. And you take that deep breath. For me, that is what drives me. Is being able to, so right now I create documentaries for entrepreneurs, and being able to create these documentaries where I'm telling the story and then it gets to the climax and then you breathe and you realize like, oh my gosh, that was so inspiring. I fell in love with the craft. I fell in love with the idea of how do I take this story from beginning, middle, and end. And I think she saw that passion. She saw that drive, and she said, you know what, I can't let this talent go to waste. Yes, he can go to college, which she did help me get into college. I did 1 year of college.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
1 year of college. But again, going to college, I realized like, I'm already in this. I had already started the business. So I could decide to go through 4 years of college, or I could go full throttle with this and go all in. And that's what I decided to do, is just go all in and really spend all my time on my craft and not just going to school.
Yeah. And so what does it look like to make a documentary for an entrepreneur? Like, what is it that people, they come to you, what are they hoping that you will create for them, or what will come out of that?
The reason that the entrepreneur is coming to me is because of, I think ultimately one thing, they're looking for connection. They want to be able to connect with either their audience or their client base in a way that eliminates the noise that's around, right? Like it helps them stand out. It helps them differentiate themselves. And so what I do in a documentary is I help them show what their brand represents. What does it stand for? So it's not just about, I'll give you an example. Like I did a cosmetic documentary. I did a documentary on a woman that created a cosmetic company. And It's not so much about the lipstick as much as it's
Yeah.
about her telling you what this lipstick represents, right?
Mm.
She had created green, yellow, blue lipstick that wasn't at the time in 2010, it wasn't around, it wasn't popular.
Yeah.
But for her, this lipstick represented the ability to be bold, to be different, to love the skin that you're in, to walk in confidence. And
Yeah.
the entire documentary is about that. We call the documentary Building the Brand. So it's telling the story of how she's actually building this brand, but you're getting to hear into the mind of the entrepreneur. Why is she making decisions that she's making? As you're seeing her make the decision, why is she making these decisions? She was also an entrepreneur that everyone laughed at her when they told her, when she told them that she would start this business.
Yeah.
They didn't believe it would blow up. They didn't believe it would be popular. And she had enough confidence in herself to say, no, I know that other women need this. I know that other women are desiring this.
Mm.
So I'm going to go through with this. And so for you to see that documentary of her going from beginning, middle, and end of this journey, it is what I call a dramatic demonstration of proof. She told you what she stands for and what she represents, but you got a chance to see it for yourself.
Yeah.
And one thing that, again, I realized at an early age is it's great to write it. It's great to talk about it.
Yeah.
But when you see it for yourself,
Yeah.
that's where belief changes. That's where we truly build a connection.
You bring it to life.
Bring it to life. That's the idea. Yeah.
And I would imagine that you can help somebody who says to you, I'm almost speaking a little selfishly here right now, who says, look, I want to bring my brand to life. I'm not really sure how to best represent that. Can you work with me and help me find the best way to represent that? So do you bring ideas to people about how to represent those things?
Oh, absolutely. So let's have a little fun with this. I didn't plan this, but I think this will help us bring this to life right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're speaking selfishly. So tell me, what ideas do you have about your brand and how you want to bring that to life?
Well, I think that the things that I want most about my brand is to help people to see that going to work every day or whatever it is that they want to do for work or productive activities, that they should find some kind of meaning or happiness or joy in doing that. And that it's not just a means to an end or a paycheck. So easy for me to say, but that's what I'm really all about. I'm really all about helping people see their way to seeing that their day-to-day life during their primary working years, please find a way to make some joy out of that.
What drives you to want to do that type of work? Why do you care so much about that specific thing?
We've worked for this all our lives. We've built a set of skills. We've been educated to move towards a point in our lives where we have the opportunity to do something, to make a difference somewhere. It doesn't have to be totally altruistic. What kind of contributions do we want to make to society, to our community? Do you want to know that at the end of the day or at the end of your life, you're going to say, I'm really happy and satisfied with how I used that part of my life. And that's a pretty big chunk of one's life.
Now, I bet there is a deeper reasoning behind why you're driven to this work. Meaning, I bet that there was a moment that you realized you were called to do this type of work because you're consulting and coaching others along this journey, right?
Yeah.
What I search for before I work with an entrepreneur is that.
Yeah.
I search for that. I search for the deeper meaning. I search for the moment, the day that changed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you weren't always doing this work, I imagine, right?
No, I wasn't. But I will tell you that from a very young age onward, I mean, like probably from as young as your age 8, I started doing volunteer work. Maybe I was age 9 or 10. I started doing volunteer work with developmentally delayed kids, helping them. So I always loved helping other people. I loved helping other people be the best they could be.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say has been a thread throughout my entire career, even though you could see that my career has taken many twists and turns, as is true for a lot of people, is that I've always tried to be a catalyst or a support for people who are trying to improve their quality of life in some way or another, or for others.
Here's the last question I have for that before I go into giving you the full picture of how I do this.
Yeah.
What would you say is your superpower, though? Because I think we can all agree there are many people who say they love to help others, right?
Yes, right.
But what makes you different? What is your superpower?
I help other people see their superpowers
Mm.
and take greater ownership of those superpowers in ways they have not been able to on their own.
Yeah. I love it. And I'm assuming there's an exercise that you take them through in order to be able to see that.
Oh, I have a whole basket full of exercises.
Love it.
That can do that. But it's a basket full of exercises, mostly just questions. And then there's also, though, something that I think I bring to the table, and this may be part of my superpower, and that is I engage people. I create a safe and engaging space, and I bring them in and I welcome them in to that space to allow them to kind of relax and open up so that they can see themselves in the way that I see them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And that truly is magical. That truly is something that is different. So everything that I've done here in this line of questioning is only a small fraction of what I do in what I call a road mapping strategy session.
I love it.
Workshop, right? And so ideally what I'm doing is mining for gold, because as you're talking, as you're saying these different things, I'm in many ways, I have my eyes open, but I have them closed, envisioning what you're talking about, because I want to see what you're talking about. So that's why I started with why.
Yeah.
Right? I believe in Simon Sinek and what he says.
Yes, I agree. I'm all about the why.
Right. So I start with that, but then I dig deeper into, okay, but what is it? What is your superpower? Because that is ultimately what I'm going to put on display.
Yes. Yeah.
Because again, it's not about what you do, but who you are, what you represent. The idea that the fact that you told me at a very young age you were volunteering and helping. I think you mentioned you were helping children in need, right?
Developmentally delayed kids.
Developmentally delayed kids. That itself, I would look to bring that to life in some way, some form. I would look to bring that to life because that is a part of your core value. That is a part of who you are. And that is what's going to connect you to the right person that you want to work with. So when I'm working with an entrepreneur to bring the documentary to life, we start with road mapping. And I'm mining for gold. I really want to understand this story in a 3-dimensional way. I don't want to just know what you do in your business.
Right.
I want to know who you are personally. I want to know who you are in your business, and then I want to know what you're interested in. And that's what I mean by 3-dimensional. Those are the 3 different areas that I look at. Look in.
I love this because it also helps our listeners understand. It gives us a view of the depth of your talent and what you bring to what you do. You know, because when we're talking about your talent or why you love what you do, you know, when we say you do film and video, it doesn't give us that. This conversation in and of itself gives us a whole different view. This isn't about what you do. This conversation shows why you do it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've had to go through the same journey myself. I've had to create a roadmap for myself because I mentioned earlier, I struggled in the first 5 years of business. Yeah. And part of that journey was not understanding for myself how I tell my own story, how I bring what I do to life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I worked on the cosmetic documentary in 2010 with the woman's name was Keisha.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was struggling. And in the midst of filming this documentary, I get a phone call from Keisha and, you know, she's excited, but this is also the same day I'm like sitting on the edge of my bed, like, do I even want to continue this? And so she calls me and I look at my phone and I'm like, do I want to take this right now? Because I'm not in the right headspace to talk to a client. Right. I'm thinking of giving it all up. But for one reason or another, I decided to pick up the phone and she is extremely excited. Like from the moment that I press talk and you hear her voice, she's just extremely, extremely excited. And she's like, Jude, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. I just got off the phone with my accountant and you won't believe what he just told me. And I'm like, well, what did he just tell you, Keisha? And she said, I've been doing this for 12 months. I've been running the business. I started it 12 months ago, and you won't believe that I made $1 million in 12 months.
Whoa.
And I remember pulling the phone away from my ear and looking at it and like, this isn't real life right now.
Wow.
Here I am thinking to myself, how do I continue this? How do I make money? It's been 5 years. I'm struggling to make money. And I get a client who's calling me to tell me she's made $1 million in 12 months. And at the time, 2010, this is really unheard of at the time. Like there isn't that many people talking about making money through e-commerce. And so, but that moment changed everything for me because I realized as an entrepreneur, what was possible. Mm-hmm. And I began to ask myself, well, what would it look like for me to make $1 million? How did she make that $1 million? Mm-hmm. Right. And what I hadn't noticed is I had a front row seat to everything that she was doing behind the scenes, how she was running this company. It wasn't so much about the number. It wasn't about making $1 million. No. It's just about success, right? It was about knowing that you started something that you were driven to do, that you knew was your calling, and you were able to make money from it and live comfortably. And so that changed for me. And that's where I began to look at, okay, how am I doing this? And how do I create this success again for another client, right? How do I create it for myself? How do I say, all right, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. These are my core values. Yeah. This is why I'm doing it. And then how do I bring to life what I'm doing? Right. The behind the scenes of this is that, Tammy, I sent you 2 videos to watch before we got on the podcast, right? Right. That's a part of bringing to life my why. Yeah. That's a part of bringing to life what makes me different. Right. And I realized that was one of the things that I needed to do was give clients a vision of what we would create together. Right. And so that in some ways, that is how I created my own roadmap to get to the point of working with Google or working with Steve Harvey or working with many of the other great entrepreneurs that I've worked with. Yeah. It's being clear and confident in who I am and having the courage to say, this is who I am. And you're going to work with me because of who I am, not just because of what I can do. And with each client, it's a whole different story. So it's like each client is a new adventure for you. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I've done, documentaries on interior designers. I've done documentaries on the one that I'm working on now, wrapping up, is a documentary series called Relentless. And it is the story of a Tracy Lynn, who is a woman that runs a direct selling company. So if you think of companies like Mary Kay or Amway, that type of business, she has 35,000 consultants. But her story is one of being relentless, of never giving up. And so even as we're filming this documentary, there's a part in the story where the fulfillment center, the center that actually sends out her products, she makes jewelry. She designs jewelry, and that's what her consultants sell. And the fulfillment center that is sending out these products goes out of business. And she has to figure out, what does she do now? Oh. This is the entire fulfillment center that runs that helps with her 35,000 consultants, that helps send out the products to customers, to the consultants. And this is the core of a multi-million-dollar business, and it goes out of business. And she has to figure out, what do I do now with $5 million worth of product? Filming this. Yes, absolutely. And so we tell that story. Of course, I'm not going to ruin how that ends up working out, but we tell the story of what do you do when you're running a business. And the part of it that I left out is she's also launching a new brand as she's running this one business. She's launching a new business. What do you do when chaos happens? Right. When you're dreaming and you're looking at, okay, I'm creating something new, but then chaos happens. Right. And so, every story is different. Yeah. Every story is I think the thread, and it's one of the reasons that I call this area relentless. I think the thread is that I think it's entrepreneurs who decided never to give up. And because of their drive to never give up, their drive to figure it out, it has led them to the success that they have now, because they decided that quitting was not an option. Right. That we are going to do this no matter what. Right. Right. Yeah. So every story is different. Every story is exciting. And that is, I want to show other people what's possible. I want to show them that there's no one way, but there are success leaves clues, right? There's a saying that says success leaves clues. And these are the clues that I want to be able to show and leave behind for others. Wow. Yeah.
So Jude, what would you say is next for you?
Uh, what's next for me is finding the next story. I'll put this out there. I had an opportunity to meet Les Brown earlier this year, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Les Brown, but Les Brown is kind of like a Tony Robbins type motivational speaker. He's been doing it for over 40 years. And I had an opportunity to meet him for another documentary that I'm filming. But to be honest with you, that's a story I'd love to tell. Les Brown has never told his story in that format before. And he is, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I think he's close to 70 at this point. And so when you think about the legacy that Les Brown has left behind, the amount of people that he's touched over the years, being able to see his story told, for me, that's something that I look forward to doing. I look forward to working on. And so there isn't anything in the works yet at all, but I just put that out there in the sense that that is kind of what I look forward to is being able to find that next story. And that's one that I would love to tell.
Mm-hmm. So the stories that you look forward to telling aren't just entrepreneur stories for the sake of them necessarily building their businesses, but just telling human stories of humanity.
No, it's a little bit of both. It depends on the entrepreneur that I work with, but obviously, yes, for a Les Brown type or a Tracy Lynn, it's more about legacy. It's not about building a bigger business. They've built big businesses already. It's about legacy. It's about them thinking, okay, I'm in this sort of, quote unquote, last leg of life. What do I leave behind for my kids? What do I leave behind for the next generation? And then there are entrepreneurs that are doing it to be able to grow, but to be able to grow in a way that's authentic to who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in an age where we're in social media and we're told, this is what you constantly have to be posting, they want to post things that are authentic to who they are and not just what will bring in an audience. Because the worst thing you can do is bring in the wrong type of people into your audience.
Yeah.
They are adamant about bringing in their tribe and their audience. So it's a little bit of both of being able to grow the business, but also being able to stay true to who you are and what is your legacy.
Yeah.
They're timeless stories. These aren't stories that, okay, we do it in 2010 and then 2011, it's an old story. No, this is literally, I have a screenshot of Keisha reposting the documentary we did in 2000. We did 3 parts of the documentary, and the last part was in 2013. And she reposted it in 2017, right? Because it's a story that's not stuck in one time. It's an endless story of who she is. And that's why it's so important to talk about who you are more than what you do, because who you are never changes. What you do may change. The mission may change.
Right. No, it's true. It's very true.
Who you are never changes. Even if you decide to start another business, it's still led by the core of who you are.
Right. So true. So true.
Yeah.
So, given who you are, Jude, where can people learn more about who you are? Where can they find you?
The best place to find me is on my website. My website is Jude Charles, my first and last name, .co. And that is where you can view some of the stories that I've been talking about. That is where we can connect. And I always like to tell people that don't be afraid to connect with me. My information is there on the site. Yes.
So
thank you,
Jude. This has been absolutely a delight. You are, in my opinion, the epitome of work from the inside out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for having me on the podcast and giving me the opportunity to share my story.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Jude Charles. It was so interesting to speak with him and learn about his early years and professional journey so far. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? Is there something you'll put into action this week that you'll benefit from for years to come? Share what resonated with you in the show notes at workfromtheinsideout.com. Look for episode 041. That's also where you'll find all the links and resources from today's podcast. If you enjoyed this episode with Jude, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I'd love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find my page at tammygoulerloeb.com/Apple. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. And who knows, maybe you'll be my next interview on this podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.